Come. All right. Shalom Israel, Shalom Yashallah, brother Ataz, we're going to probably all coming back at you with these precepts and yet another cold cut. Of course, honor and glory to Yahweh. Bashum Mashak, Lam like Yahweh, Ataz Zaka the righteous, Ganamadi Kapal Yupayim, Lasaquayam, Bayata the Wab, right? As double honors to the elders of the house of David that's been laboring and doing this truth, patiently waiting for the second coming of our Lord, Hamashak, Lam like Yahweh, Ataz Daki, right? Doing in this truth 20, 30, 40 plus years, right? And also, right, giving mighty counsel, right, mighty wisdom and mighty discernment, mighty teachings, and land a blueprint and foundation, right, to the younger men and generation coming into this truth, showing what it truly means to actually endure in this truth, right, giving, again, double honors, right, to the elders that do rule well, right. Also want to give a beautiful, mighty shalom, thumb to all of the mighty Akim on the highways, byways, and hedges, laboring, pushing his truth to the four corners of the earth in sincerity and pureness of heart, right? Making your body a living sacrifice, enduring all elements, all tumults, all spirits, demons, and principalities, making that body a living sacrifice, enduring the rain, enduring the sun, right? Enduring the heat, the cold, right? The snow, right? The blizzards, right? The hail, right? All of the torrential downpours, man, right? And doing all things that will prevent the average man from doing the work of the Lord, or that men will make excuses thereof, man, right? And to all of the mighty men building yourselves up to go on to the hedges, right? The highways, the byways, right? And to go into the vineyard, right? To labor thereof, man, right? Bid you a strong shalom as well. All right. Also, giving a hearty shalom by Yabashmi Ashashamadam to all the Akwaf in this truth, married and unmarried, right? Referencing their husbands, building up the children, right? Decently and in order to keep the law, statutes, commandments, right? Doing all the mighty, powerful works, right? Of a Proverbs 31 woman, right? As ties to the second chapter woman, right? Right. And doing all the works, right, of a Sirach, the 26th chapter woman, right, and righteous, man, and doing all the mighty deeds of our foremothers as well, right. To all the Akwaf, right, bid you a hearty and strong shalom, right. To all the mighty Banya, right, the mighty children, right, bid you a mighty shalom, right, while y'all bashim ashab brak wa thumb, right, to all the mighty Banya, the children, right, honoring your mother and your father, keeping the law, statutes, commandments, being a light and a pillar and a foundation in this land of darkness, right, and to all of the Masha Park far and near, right, doing all the mighty works, right, of a mighty Romans, the 16th chapter, brother or sister, man, right, being a helper, a helpmate, right, and giving increase thereof unto the church, right, and putting forth their hand to all that they can, right, bids you a strong and hearty shalom, right, come. Right, so with that, right, coming back, right, with another beautiful WFI Tractates, Monographs, and Dissertations, right? It's extremely important, right, to go into, right, the books, the history, right, to remember the days of old, right? All right? You know, along with going with the prophecy, right, it's always good and it's always well to have other sources, right, to have writers and documents to further validate who we are. All right, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, man. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 32. All right, and verse number 7. And it reads, "Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will shew thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee," man. All right. Right. So the Most High said to remember the days of old and consider the years of many generations, man. All right. Because you have many Christians, many scoffers, right? Many men, even of our own people, man. Right. And the other nations, all right? You know, they may come up, you know, to you. They may scoff against you, all right? And say, this book is for everyone, man. Right. Or how do you know that you are the people of this book, man? It will, through history, through books, and through writings, and through asking, right, our fathers, man, right, for those who can, and we can go through the writings and through wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and discernment, right, we can understand, right, that our people were the people of old, man, that our people do go back to the ancient Israelites, man, and that we are the ancient Israelites, right, to this very day, right. It also reads, it says, ask thy father, and he will shew thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee, man. Okay? We have writings, right, that our elders have left of old, man. Right? Through many, many, many generations. All right? Let's get that in the book of First Chronicles. All right? First Chronicles, chapter 25. First Chronicles 25 and verse number 8. And they cast lots, ward against ward, as well the small as the great, the teacher as the scholar, man. Right? Or as well as being great teachers, man, you have to be a great scholar as well, man. You know what? Meaning going into different books, right? Going into these writings, man, thereof. Right? Right? Because we have to go into the archaeology, right? The anthropology, okay? Right? Have to get into these various studies, man, right? Which further validates our claim, man. Right? Which these things they help also validate the prophecy, right? Going through these writings, right? Going through these ancient names, right? That these nations have, man, right? Which further proves, right, and shows that this is a living book, right? Let me get one more precept as well, touching on this. All right, right. Let's go to the book of Saint Malachi, very fast. All right, Saint Malachi, chapter 2 and verse number 12. It reads, the Lord will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offereth an offering unto the Lord of hosts, man. Right? Right. So for a dispensation of time, the Most High, he cut off the master, man. Right? Right? The men that were the doctors thereof of the law, right? To teach our people, man. Right? Right? That the men that had the understanding thereof, right? Of the scriptures, right? Through the transatlantic slave trade, man. Right through that 3.5 years, right, proceeding to the book of Daniel, right, the ninth chapter, right, being the midst of the weeks, right, where wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right, was removed, right, from our people, right, for, right, verily about, right, that so-called 350-year period, man, thereof, man. Okay, understand, right, for those that have ears to hear, right, but now the Lord is restoring, right, men of understanding, man, right, restoring the scholars in these last days, unveiling these books and its history, right, that was once removed far from us, right? But let's get into it through the Spirit. Okay, right. So all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, all right. Right. So the first book, all right, is Lest We Forget, right. It is the passage from Africa to slavery and emancipation, right. It is a three-dimensional, right, interactive book with photographs and documents from the Black Holocaust exhibit, man. All right. All right. So reading right thereof, all right, right, this book, right, is based on materials, right, from the national acclaimed Black Holocaust exhibit, Lest We Forget documentation, the plight of an estimated 100 million Africans from their rich pre-slavery culture to their enslavement in a foreign land. This book is a collection of staring historic papers, memoirs, personal effects and photographs brought to life in a unique three-dimensional interactive format, lest we forget, chronicles the unyielding strength of a people who refuse to be broken, right? By Velma Maya Thomas, an author, scholar, and ordained minister and manager of the Shrine of the Black Madonna bookstore, right? In ATL, man, right? Right, and this book goes deep, right, into African American studies, right, for those, right, who would like to purchase this book, man, all right? Alvarez's, you can get this off of Amazon, right? Lord willing, right? As the prices, right, continue to go up and continue to rise, man. Right? Our book. We're going to touch on this book, right? Lord willing, today through the Spirit, and get into, right, a few pages, right, or a part one thereof, right? Touching and showing different documents, right, and showing, right, the history and records of our people, right? Right, come. Right, so first and foremost, right, getting into, right, the first chapter, right, Africa before the slave trade, right, and it reads thereof, right, Europeans have long considered Africa to be a strange and mysterious place. Many called it the Dark Continent, but Africans and their enlightened Europeans who came to know it, Africa was a land kissed by the gods. Africa is the home of the Nile, the world's longest river, the Sahara, the world's largest desert, and Mount Kilimanjaro, the world's highest mountains. It is the home of Egypt and of Timbuktu, cradles of civilization, commerce, medicine, mathematics, and knowledge, man. Right? And a lot of this also, right, goes to show, right, that our people also had wisdom. Right? People had wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Right? Because again, our people were scholars. Okay. Our people had discernment. Okay. Even it tells you in the book of First Chronicles, right? The 12th chapter, right? Even those of the northern kingdom, right? Who can discern the sky thereof, right? Let's get that real fast, right? Showing wisdom, showing understanding, right? That our people once had, right? Slocking. Even right, our kings, man, right? They had great skills of engineering thereof, right? Actually, slocking. Let me get that real fast, right? Let's get that in the book of Slakia, First Kings. All right. Actually, Slakia, Second Kings, right? Second Kings chapter 20 and verse number 20. Right. And it reads, and the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, how he made a pool and a conduit and brought water into the city. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah, man? Right, so our forefathers had wisdom, man. Right, they built conduits, man. They built pools, man. They built even when you read in the book of Maccabees, man. Right, they built engines of war. Okay, right, they built a multitude of things, man. Right, just showing you our wisdom, our understanding, our knowledge, right, that's found thereof in the scriptures, man. All right, hey, these things we taught Esau thereof. Understand? All right. So read it on. It reads, it is the birthplace of all life, the land where human life began some 4 million years ago. Right. You know, again, certain things, right, we take, right, the meat thereof, right, and cast out the bones. Right. And also understanding, right, that this touches on the transatlantic slave trade, right? Although we know that there's differences of nations, right? Hamites, Shemites, right? Understanding that prior to this, we had the sub-Saharan slave trade as well, right? That affected our people as well, right? But reading on, it reads, before the Europeans came, my people were known by their indigenous names. They were the Bambara, the Mindi, the Iwe, the Akan, the Kimbundi, the Zulu, the Hassa, and the Teso, just to name a few. Africans called their empires the Songhai, Mali, Katsini, and Kenim Bornu before my people spoke English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish, right? Languages of their European conquerors. They spoke Tiwi, Fula, Hasui, Shuna, and 1,000 other African languages, all right? And going into the scriptures, man, right? The Iwe, right? The Khan, right? The Ashanti, right? And people of Ashan, right? The language of Tiwi, right? A lot of these languages and a lot of these people, they actually go back, right, to Israel, man. Right? They go back, right, to the Hebrew as well, right? Because the language Tiwi, right, specifically goes back to the people of Ashan, right? And the Akan, right? And the people of Ashan, which are known as the Ashanti, right, goes back to Levi, right? And these are a part of the suburbs, right, thereof, right, proceeding to the book of Joshua, because these lands were given to, right, the Levites. Right, first let's get this in the book of Joshua. Joshua chapter 15. Right, Slakia Kash. Kina Slakia. The book of Joshua chapter 15 and verse number 41. It reads, and Gadaroth, Bethagon, and Naamah, and Makeda, 16 cities with their villages, right? Libnah and Ether and Ashan, right? So these are lands and suburbs that were given to, right, the children of Judah, right? When you read this in right, Slack. Actually, I'm gonna just read up, right? Joshua 15 and 12, and the west border was to the great sea, and the coast thereof. This is the coast of the children of Judah round about according to their families, right? So these cities thereof were given unto Judah. Understand? Although you have the suburbs, right, that were given unto, right, the children thereof of Levi, right? And I'm just touch on it real fast, right? In Joshua the 21st chapter, right? Joshua chapter 21 and verse number 3. It reads, and the children of Israel gave unto the Levites out of their inheritance at the commandment of the Lord these cities and their suburbs, man. Right. So when you go into Joshua the 19th chapter, right, and you go into various cities, right, thereof, right, that were given thereof unto, right, the children of Levi, right, as well, right, for an inheritance, right, 19 right through 21, right. Jumping down to verse number 10, it reads, Slakia. I'm gonna read verse number 9. And they gave out of the tribe of the children of Judah and out of the tribe of the children of Simeon these cities which are here mentioned by name, which the children of Aaron, being of the families of the Korathites, who were of the children of Levi, had for theirs was the first lot, and they gave them and they gave them the city of Arba, the father of Anak, which city is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah, with the suburbs thereof round about it. All right, So you can also touch on, right, Joshua, right, the 21st chapter, right, going into various cities as well that were given thereof, right, various suburbs. Joshua the 15th chapter, right, linking these cities up, right, that had Levites in it now, right, which again, right, goes to show that our people, right, which were separated thereof, that they spoke these various languages thereof, right, as well as being scattered thereof, right, from the four corners of the earth, and pushed, right, from our land, right, during 70 AD, right, fleeing from Roman persecution, right, as Yahushua said that our people should flee into the mountains, right, and not just literal mountains, man, but fleeing into these various kingdoms, right, coming amongst these different nations thereof, man, right, until we were pushed, right, from our homeland, right, pushed out of East Africa, right, due to the sub-Saharan slave trade, until we made our way all the way to the west part of Africa, right, and even furthermore, right, that's how you also have a lot of our people, right, that come from that so-called Mandingo, right, which is why you also had a lot of our people during the slavery in America. They would have a lot of our people that fought, amongst one another. They would call it what? Mandingo fight, right? Because this was chiefly, right, the area, right, when you read or when you look upon a Negro land map, right, the kingdom of Ayuda, right, which is Judah, to be translated, right. So you had a lot of our people of the kingdom of Judah, right, Ewe, right, which Allah would say would be Benjamin area, Yoruba, right, which Yoruba actually goes back to Joseph, right, to be fruitful thereof, right, the Igbo, Ewe, right, a lot of these nations go back to our people, right. So let's get back to this, right. Gonna right, touch on this right a bit and jump down. Right, it reads, this was before the invasion of the Europeans. Before Africa was theirs, she belonged to the black man. It was not until the 15th century, when European powers entered Africa's first for gold, then for slaves, that the face of Africa changed. They called our lands the Gold Coast, the Ivory Coast, the Grain Coast, and soon the Slave Coast, labeling them according to the riches they could exploit. In 1884, after 200 years of reaping the economic benefits of enslaved African labor, European powers met in Berlin to decide who would control the land, setting the stage for the scramble of Africa. They carved Africa in pieces among themselves, claiming its wealth and exerting their military and political power. It would not be until the 1950s, through armed struggle and resistance, that Africa would again be ruled by Africans, right? But even now, right, that land is still being raped, robbed, and pillaged, right, by these other nations, right? And neither, therefore, is it our land, right? But the chief point that I wanted to touch on, right, they called, right, the land the Gold Coast, the Ivory Coast, the Grain Coast, and soon the Slave Coast, right? Because our people, right, were sold, right, by these different nations, man. Right? Let's get that in the classic, right, in the book of Joel. All right. Understand? All right, let's go to the classic, right, the book of Joel. Right, Joel, chapter 3, and verse number 4, the classic. It reads, yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head, because you have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their borders, man. Right, calm, man. Right, and we are the gold and apple of the Most High's eye, man. Right, right. Spiritually, we are that gold, that precious silver, right, in the sight of the Most High, right. And twofold physically, man. Right, these nations have literally raped, robbed, right, took our gold, man, right, and took our silver, right. Where's all the gold, right, that you read about, right, in First Kings, the 10th chapter, where how Solomon had 666 talents of gold that was brought to him annually, right, per year, man. Right, where's our ancient gold bucklers, or our ancient gold shields, right, and swords thereof, man. Right there, our forefathers had, man. Right, where's our ancient gold cups, right, our ancient gold menorahs thereof, man. Right, that we once had. These things were stolen, right, and taken, right, by these nations. Right, entire right, Zidon, man. And these are ancient names, right, for Africans. Right, ancient name for these Hamites, right, that sold our people. Right, so as we go into the books and the records, right, and go into the history, right, we can also link it up, right, that these people are not our people, man, right, which sold us, right, into slavery, man, right. I'm gonna jump down, right, Slocky. I'm gonna get another precept, right, real fast. All right, let's go to the mighty book of Joshua. All right, let's go to Joshua chapter 43, right, real fast, right, to show the difference thereof. Joshua chapter 43 and verse number 32. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination unto the Egyptians. Right. So these different African nations, man, they know who we are, man. Right. That's why they laugh at you, man. They call you names, right? Like Akata, man. Right. They mock you, right, in their bastard as languages, man. Right. Understanding that these that although, right, that these Hamite nations, right, they may look like you, or resemble you in so-called skin tone, or etc., man. Hey, but they have a different spirit, man. Right? They'll even mock that their forefathers, right, sold your forefathers, man. Right? And understand that we are not all the same people. Right? It was an abomination for the Egyptians, right, for the Hamite to eat bread, right, with the Hebrews, man. Right? The same spirit, right, that Esau moves in, man. Right? So where these nations, right, look at you, man, as subhuman, man. Right? And as evil. Right? And as nothing, man. Right? And also, let me get one more precept, right, touching on the theory of these nations real fast. All right, let's go to the book of First Ezra. All right, let's go to the book of First Ezra. All right, chapter 1 and verse number 55. As for the house of the Lord, they burnt it and break it down, and break down the walls of Jerusalem, and set fire upon her towers. And as for her glorious things, they never ceased till they had consumed and brought them all to naught. And the people that were not slain with the sword he carried unto Babylon, who became servants to him and his children, till the Persians reigned, to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of a Jeremiah, right, which is Jeremiah the prophet, man. All right. Right, but it says what, man? In verse 56, It reads, they never ceased till they had consumed and brought them all to naught, man. Right? Meaning what? That these nations, that they continue to consume, right? And consume and consume and consume, right? Until you're not. Right? And have taken our spoils, have taken our gold, man. Right? And delivered us unto our enemies, man. Right? As it said in the book of it's like, let me get that in first Ezra, the fourth chapter. Right? And what do I have to do with the old Edom, man? Because the Edomites are always sticking the nasty nose, man, in places that pertaineth not unto them. Right? It's the book of First Ezra, chapter 4, and verse number 44. And to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple which the Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees, man. Right, so Esau, man, he always sticks his nose right where it doesn't belong. Esau always wants to creep up, man, right, and inflict more wickedness, right, upon our people, man. All right, Slakia. Let me get one more precept, right? Zechariah, chapter 1, and verse number 15, man. Right, because the Most High, right, he chastised us, right? Although, right, the heathen, they always furthered the affliction thereof, man. Right, especially Esau, right? He goes above and beyond, right? Even when you read the account of Saul, right, in the book of First Samuel, man, right? He charged Doeg the Edomite, right, to go and to do one specific job, one specific task, man. But not only did Doeg, man, kill all the Edomites, man. I'm just like killed the priest. He killed all the women, the children, the beast, the animal, man. Right? Just doing too much. Right? The book of Zechariah, chapter 1 and verse number 15. It reads, I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction, man. All right. The Most High, he was a bit displeased with us, right? But the heathen always forward the affliction. They always go 1,000 plus, man, and beyond. All right. So, well, let's touch on this through the spirit. It reads, the changing face of Africa, the Africa before the slave trade and Europe's colonial invasion, looked quite different than the Africa of today. This map of Africa, circa 1450, shows some of the indigenous groups and original nation state boundaries. The Africa of the 20th century reflects European boundaries drawn in the 1880s during Europe's partition of and scramble for Africa, man. All right. Right. And also, whenever Esau gets involved, man, things become scrambled, man. Right. All things become, right, to get out of place. Right. Landmarks and borders become removed, and it's madness, man. Right. So touching on this, right. So this would be one of the older maps pertaining towards the 1400. All right, and which we can see, right, which is why even when we see even today, rather, man, right, that's why we ask if a lot of our people, if they may come up, right, thereof, and they may be from parts of West Africa. We can see and we can tell, right, and through the spirit thereof, man, there a lot of our people are Israelites, right, chiefly Benin, right, which Benin goes back to Benjamin, right, parts of Cameroon, right, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, right, even Ghana thereof, man. Right, a lot of our people that come from, right, the West Africa, right, and even again going back to the map thereof, right? As we can see, a lot of our people that go back to, right, these ancient lands, right, and landmass thereof, right, we understand that these people, right, are Israelites thereof, right? But again, right, there's a plethora, right, to continue to touch on, right, in this book, right, Lord willing, we can further, go in depth, right, as this book is extremely interactive thereof, right, you have memoirs, right, of the Middle Passage, right, showing, right, as our people were brought into slavery, right, on slave ships, right, our conditions thereof, right, how our people lived, extremely, extremely wicked thereof, man. All right, in which we can always link this up, right, Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy 28 and verse number 68, right, the book of Second Maccabees as well, man. Right, always touch on the book of Second Maccabees. Second Maccabees chapter 8 and verse number 10. It reads, "So Nicanor undertook to make so much money of the captive Jews, as should defray the tribute of 2,000 talents, which the king was to pay to the Romans. Wherefore immediately he was sent to the cities upon the seacoast, proclaiming a sale of the captive Jews, and promising that they should have 80 bodies for 1 talent, not expecting the vengeance that was to follow upon him, right, from the Almighty God, man. Right, because there's a great vengeance and a great recompense, man, for selling it to children of the Most High, man. All right, a great vengeance and a great recompense thereof, man. All right, and just to touch on that, man, on page 10, right, get into the auction thereof, man. All right, and how you have a right, cash for Negroes, right, and a public sale of slaves, right, which you can get into, right. This would be an ancient, right, an ancient so-called receipt thereof, all right, an ancient receipt, right, of our people being brought and being sold thereof, man. Right, so before you were cashing checks at Wells Fargo, PNC Bank, right, there were checks or records of sale that were being sold, that were of our people being sold thereof. So with that, all right, we're gonna rest here through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Right, again, touching on the book, lest we forget. Right, so again, Brother Atazwam Kabari Allah coming back to these precepts, and yet another cold cut, giving the course all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Mashat, Wamalak Yahushua, Hataj Dr. Righteous, Abba Ratazah. This lesson was extremely edifying, right? Right, through the spirit, right? Until the next time, I'm going to say, Shalom.